Hey there, Erotica fan. Thanks for stopping by. You've made a great selection, and I just know you're gonna love this one. We're loading up your story now, and soon you'll be enjoying some fantastically sexy storytelling. But before this story gets you all hot and bothered, and trust me, it will, you should jot down this code, Erotic50. No, it's not my phone number. Sorry. It's a special offer code from our friends at adamandeve.com. AdamandEve.com are the #1 suppliers of adult toys and all kinds of sexy goodies. And with the code EROTIC50, you'll get 50% off almost any single item, plus free shipping on your entire order. Just enter the code at the checkout, and you're set. Pretty awesome, huh? And speaking of awesome, your sexy story is now loaded and ready to go. Hold on tight.
She thought the date would never end. Why did she let her friend set her up like that? That was it. No more blind dates. She didn't care if she died single. It was too exhausting, and she would be better off alone. She opened the apartment door and went through her mail as she checked her voicemail. No messages. Fine. She'd treat herself to that pint of Haagen-Dazs in her freezer, then watch some television. Why not? It was her life. Who would care? She changed out of her date outfit, a thin black sweater with a swooping neckline, and a snug-fitting black skirt with a slight slit up the side. The sweater showed off her cleavage and neck nicely, and the skirt was her calling card for her long, shapely legs. She had begun to hate that outfit and thought of setting it on fire. Maybe she would make a torch out of it and run down the street yelling, "I accept that I will be single forever. Stop asking me why I'm not married." Maybe then she could live in peace without feeling so inadequate, damn it. She put on her favorite faded pajamas and grabbed the ice cream from the fridge. She settled down in front of the TV. She dug into the ice cream only to come back with a spoonful of freezer frost. Like her love life, it had frozen over to a point of no return. Actually, more like a pint of no return, she thought. At least she still had a sense of humor. She flipped through the channels only to find one mindless reality show after another. She turned off the TV and threw out the ice cream. Turning on the radio to a local jazz station, she scanned her bookshelf looking for something to read. There they were, the unread self-help books her mother kept sending her. Love in the 21st Century, A Woman's Guide to Internet Dating, How to Find True Love. Enough was enough. Grabbing the books, she walked to her window. Raising the window high, she noticed that a light was on in the apartment across the alley. She could see a man standing in the window. It was close enough for her to see details. Then she realized he could see her too. She stepped away from the window and peeked back through the curtain. How long had he been looking at her? She didn't want to know. She retraced her steps since coming home, checking her mail, changing her clothes. Oh God, had he seen her changing her clothes? She turned off the light in the living room and peered out again. She was sure he would be gone. He was not only still there, but had turned on another light. She saw him sitting in a chair wearing a button-down shirt with slacks. She could make out his face, head of curly dark hair, and what looked like a 5 o'clock shadow. Maybe he had just come home from a blind date too, she thought. What was he doing staring at her? Should she call the cops? She thought of crawling on the floor to her bedroom. This is stupid. Letting go of the curtain, she walked toward the kitchen. As she did, she noticed a light flicker. She turned and looked back. He was turning a light on and off. She walked toward the window, intrigued. No hiding this time. She watched as he took off his shirt. He was brazenly looking at her as he did so. He slowly unbuttoned each button, taking his sweet time. It was highly erotic. Once it was off, she could see his muscular chest and arms clearly as he settled back against the chair. She saw what looked like a smile brush across his face. Then he pointed at her. She forgot that he could see her watching him watching her. She was so entranced. Without realizing it, she pointed to herself as if to say, "Me?" He nodded and smiled. Her hand reached for the bottom button of her pajama top. Why am I doing this? Oh, what the hell, beats eating ice cream. He watched, completely still, as she worked her way up. This couldn't really be happening, could it? Before she knew it, she was at the top button. She watched him stand up and slide off his slacks, revealing powerful legs. She turned her back as she held her pajama top closed, sliding one sleeve off and then the other. She exposed her bare shoulders and back. Peeking back at him, she saw he was as still as a rock, watching her every move. She felt so in control, wanted, craved. She slipped her top to her waist, holding it with one hand. She turned back, covering her breast with the other arm. She saw his feet shift, then settle. Slowly, lowering her arm, she exposed her breast. Nipples pointing out like those old Uncle Sam recruitment posters. His hand brushed his scruffy face. His eyes focused solely on her. She saw him inhale. Raising one arm, the other brushed her breasts, ribs, stomach, to finally come to rest on her hip. Maybe those dance lessons would finally come in handy, she thought. Arching her back with arms raised, she showed him her full breast, then lowering her arms, covered them back up. She saw him exhale. She couldn't remember the last time she made a man stop breathing just at the sight of her. She walked to the stereo and turned up the music. If she was going to do this, she was going to do it right, even if she was doing it in her favorite faded pajamas. She walked back toward the window. With the pajama top hanging open, she stepped on her coffee table, moving to the music. Slipping her thumbs into the elastic waist of her pants, she teased him with first one side, then the other, showing one hip, then the next. Leaving the pants in place, she grabbed her breasts, caressing them. He hadn't moved since she had last looked. He was so still that for a moment she thought he was part of the furniture. Then she noticed a new arrival in his boxers. Men are so easy, she smirked. If he touched himself, she would stop. If any touching were going to be done, it would be by her. This was all about her. She lowered the pants to her feet, kicking them aside. She danced, teasing him with glimpses of her tits and firm ass. She decided she would give him enough masturbating material for the next 2 months. She reached down to touch herself with one hand as the other pinched her nips, making them even harder, surprising herself how wet she'd become. In all her strategizing, she hadn't realized how excited this made her. Her clit was a warm little lump of pleasure. She massaged away at it, noticing a pup tent setting up camp in his shorts. She almost laughed, but then slid a finger deeper and harder inside and couldn't find anything to laugh about. Her body and hand were one. She couldn't separate them even if she tried. Soon she felt that rumbling warning that the Big O roller coaster was about to charge into town. She stood there on her coffee table, grinding and sweating. Then as it passed, shaking, chest heaving, opening her eyes, she looked for his reaction. He was gone. She walked closer to the window, but he was nowhere. Maybe he left the room to go relieve his own tension. How could he exit in the middle of her one and only performance? Then she heard something from the front door. A note had been slipped underneath. Picking it up, she read, "Please don't think I'm crazy. I've never done this sort of thing before, but if you're up for it, I would like to take you out for a cup of coffee. Paul, 555-6734. She read the note, then looked at his window. There he was, dressed as before, waving at her and gesturing to his phone.
Wow, how is that? So hot. So fun. You know what's also hot and fun? Ordering something from adamandeve.com. They're so generous with us in bringing these stories to you, but also helping you out with 50% off almost any item on their site and giving you free shipping. Just enter offer code EROTIC50 at checkout on almost any single item, and you'll see the price go down by half. And shipping is for free. Amazing! EROTIC50 is the code. So don't stop listening to these stories. We love you. I'll be waiting.